Turn my microphone. Thank you. Welcome to the Committee of the Whole meeting on June 18th. We're beginning at 5:01, and I believe my last as chair, as I hand over the baton to Councillor Natellenbos. All right, so we'll begin with the land acknowledgement. The City of Beaumont respects the histories, languages, and cultures of all First Peoples of this land, whether they be of First Nation, Métis, or Inuit descent, and appreciates that their presence continues to enrich vibrant communities across the land. As we gather here in Treaty 6 territory and the homeland of the Métis Nation, we acknowledge that we are all treaty people and have ongoing responsibilities to protect and honor the treaty, the inherent rights of the people, and the land. All right, we will move along to the adoption of the agenda. Madam Clerk, I believe we have a postponement to the agenda.
Thank you, Chair. We do have one postponement of item 5.1, the Edmonton Metropolitan Region Board Council presentation that will be coming at a later date.
Okay, thank you. And then we'll have a motion to adopt. All right, would anyone like to move the adoption of the agenda? Councillor Natellenbos?
Perfect. Thank you, Madam Chair. So I move that the June 18, 2024 Committee of the Whole meeting agenda be adopted with the following changes: postponement of item 5.1, Edmonton Metropolitan Region Board Council presentation.
Thank you. Any discussions to the changes in the adoption of the agenda? I see none. We will now vote. That passes unanimously. And we'll move on to next, the adoption of the minutes, the Committee of the Whole, May 21st, 2024. Minutes. Would a committee member like to move this? Councillor Barnhart.
Thank you, Chair. I move that the May 21st, 2024 Committee of the Whole meeting minutes be adopted as presented.
Thank you. Any discussion? I see none, and we'll start the vote. That passes unanimously. And then we'll move on to open forum. Do we have any open forum, Madam Clerk?
Thank you, Madam Chair. We do not have any open forum presentations this evening.
Perfect. Thank you. And we'll move on to our presentations. And since 5.1 is postponed, we'll move to 5.2, which is website and service portal update. Come on up. Welcome. Your mic is on and you may begin.
All righty. Good evening, committee and the public. Mr. Reichert and I will be providing an update on some of the technology-related components tied to the Connected Community project. So with that being said, my name is Chris Hart and I'm the GIS and Data Analytics Lead. I'll be providing an update on the ongoing work to redesign Service Beaumont and the Beaumont Project Dashboard, which will be a part of the website launch, which Mr. Reichert will expand on in greater detail after my update. As mentioned at the February 20th session of the Committee of the Whole, Service Beaumont and the Beaumont Project Dashboard are being redesigned to align with new technology and improve the overall user experience. To recap the discussion, Service Beaumont is being restructured and embedded into the new website, where non-emergency citizen issues will be redirected to the Service Experience Office, excluding any legislative and other compliance issues yet to be defined. Lessons learned from user testing, which was conducted this past May, will be adopted into the new version to report non-emergency issues. Similarly, the project dashboard is being redesigned to create an easy-to-use and modernized experience for end users. As you can see on the screen there, this is the first look at the project dashboard as we've moved away from being focused solely on the map to telling more of a story by having a prominent display of the project information and content. A citizen can come to the dashboard and either select a project on the map, use a filter, or select a project on the list panel. The dashboard is mobile friendly and still features the majority of existing functionality. It is now more interactive, intuitive, and clearly defined buttons for different filters and finding project information, along with a more focused view on each individual project. Based on the user testing conducted with our citizens testing group, testers indicated they found the new version of the project dashboard easier to use and user-friendly. Again, on the screen here, for non-emergency concerns, you can see we have simplified the process for citizens to submit these issues to the city for resolution. Instead of having a map-centric application, which involves multiple clicks and required the user to navigate to different sections of the page, the first click takes the user directly to the form and follows a seamless top-to-bottom flow to populate information. The citizen will select an issue category, issue type, identify the location on the map, and add details and can attach photos. The submitter will not be able to submit the form until all the required fields are entered and must enter a location that falls within the city of Beaumont. The issue will then be directed to the appropriate members of administration for resolution. Like the user tested conducted for the project dashboard, testers indicated they found this new version for reporting problems easier to use and straightforward, with over 70% of testers indicating they access the tool on a mobile device. I will now hand this off to Josh to discuss the website in greater detail.
Perfect. Thank you, Chris. Let me just get that in the right place. First, let me just say thank you very much to Madam Chair, Council, members of the public. My name is Joshua Reichert. I'm the Digital Experience Lead here with the City of Beaumont, and I'm very excited to be here tonight. It's going to be a fun presentation. It's a little bit of a show and tell. And of course, the Oilers are playing later, so go Oilers. As long as none of you guys are Panthers fans, though. Okay, good. Then we can continue. All right, last time I was here, I gave a pretty robust update on the website project. That's both the content audit that we did, as well as the redesign project and the structure from the ground up. Today's presentation is going to be less of a detail-oriented presentation, more of a show and tell. But before I get into the fun part of it, I do want to provide a few updates on a couple of items for council. At the end of the presentation in February, I provided a timeline for all of our milestones for the project, and there have been some changes. As I had mentioned in February, this might be something that happens. They're not crazy big changes, nothing to be too concerned about, but I do want to point them out today. The first one is going to be our content entry that has been extended. Originally, we were going to have that done by the end of May. We've actually extended that to the end of June. And of course, that pushes some of the other key components as well, such as our QA testing, which has been extended. Our marketing awareness is still going to take place in June, and our server and site migration is going to still take place in June. But because of those two other components, both the content entry and the QA testing, our launch deployment date of July 1st has been pushed to July 10th. Now, with that being said, there has been a change to that actually today as well. As of this morning, we're actually pushing the launch date of the website to July 24th. So we're going to be about 3.5 weeks push from our original launch date. There's a few reasons for this. Primarily, we want to make sure that we put our best foot forward. A project of this scale and scope, as I had mentioned in February, there's a lot of moving pieces, a lot of technological handshakes that take place, and we want to make sure that everything is perfect before we launch. We want to make sure that we don't have anything left up in the air that could potentially cause issues for users. And I'm sure you guys might have questions here about that later on. All right, so let's talk about two of the key components before I get to the fun stuff, as I call it. Let's talk about the information architecture. So we've refined the site navigation for the website as a whole across the board. And when we do this, there's some key objectives that we took a look at. The first one is leading with a need. We want to make sure that we structure our website and that it reflects an audience-centric approach. On our current build right now, there's a lot of information that is categorized as best as we can, but the structure of the website doesn't necessarily promote accurate placement of said information. We also want to make sure that we have defined content objectives. So we have content funnels now that are a core component for navigation for all web activities on the website. And when I take you through the information architecture, you'll definitely see how that fits into the website. We're also focusing on user action navigation versus department or internal navigation. That's not to be said that the website isn't used as an internal tool. It definitely is, but it's restructured to focus on the main navigation of our main end user, which is citizens, businesses, and the community as a whole. We've also redone our entire top-level navigation and now includes drill-down menus to a max of 2 levels instead of, I think right now it's like 5 or 6, which is very cluttered in a menu framework, so we've restructured that. And we've also built in call to actions that are now more prominent and they are categorized. So here's a key example of what the sitemap is going to, actually what the sitemap does look like. This is a shortened or abridged version. We actually have about 326 pages. I didn't think I was going to put all of them up on there, so I just wanted to show some of the top actions here. So at the top, you'll notice the ones in purple, that's going to be what we're calling our utility navigation. Then in the subsection there, the top green one, so you'll see RAC and activities, social programs and services, so on and so forth. Those are our primary navigation, and then under those are the categorized pages. And this will definitely make more sense when I show you guys what the design actually looks like. This here is just kind of a key example to showcase how that top level navigation works and how the site information architecture is going to be structured. I won't go into too much detail here because I really want to showcase it when I show you guys the homepage template. But this is kind of a visual identity piece for it. All right, so when we talk about design, there's some key components that we looked at, and that's our refined and functional design, and this is our design approach for the website as a whole. First, less is more. A minimalistic design approach creates a better design standards that is going to last the test of time. It's not going to look dated over longer periods of time. That was definitely a big thing for us. We also want to utilize white space. This gives us a lot more room to breathe for content. It also gives us a little bit more room to optimize things later on in the future when we want to add new components or maybe pull back on components, whatever it is that the city needs at the time. We also want to lean into a creative visual narrative that can be consistent across the board, and it's a springboard, not just for digital, but for all assets for the city moving forward. And of course, we want to focus on accessibility. So we made some pretty big changes when it comes to mobile devices, text and fonts for readability, and an overall responsive design. Okay, so are you guys ready for some fun? Cool, all right, okay. Just gonna let Rebecca get that set up and then I'll grab the keyboard from her there. We're good? Awesome. Okay. Everyone can see that okay, I hope. I'm just gonna make sure here that I have everything lined up. Okay. So I have all of the page templates. This is the finalized design for the website. So this is going to show you guys exactly what it's going to look like when we launch on the 24th. And there's a lot of really cool features and functions that we built in. It's a complete night and day difference from what we currently have, which I'm very excited to showcase. And before we jump into that, I want to talk about that navigation piece, just so everyone understands how it's going to function. So in the website, we'll have our top utility navigation. So you'll notice some key features such as pay and apply, non-emergency concerns, public notices, and our calendar. These are key functions that we identified during our tree testing. These are key actions that users are looking to take place the majority of the time when they land on the website. So these will be pinned at the top of every page across the entire user journey on the website, which is fantastic. So it doesn't matter which entry point they come in from, whether it be Google, social media, so on and so forth, we'll be able to access those key links right at the top. We also have our auto translate language selector, which is going to launch with the website on the 24th. We'll have French and English at launch, and we'll have 26 native languages moving forward, roughly around August and September. This will function very seamlessly. You click on that, you select the language that you would like, and it'll auto translate the entire website in the CSS, which is the cascading style sheets. That's the code. It will not auto translate coded images, so PNGs, PDF, stuff like that, because those are exported in separate programs, although we are looking at ways that we can fix that in the future. We also have a fully redefined search function now as well. It's going to utilize preemptive text. So when you're in the search bar and you actually start typing for stuff, it'll actually showcase things that are popular that other users have looked at. It'll actually give you those suggestions as well, which is fantastic. So this here is the actual top level navigation itself. So you've noticed that we've broken it down to some key categories: recreation activities, social programs and services, home and neighborhood, city projects and plans, business and economy, and government. These were identified during our tree testing phases with all users within the city as well as internally on the organization. And this is exactly what people are looking for when they want to find specific pieces of information. So we'll focus on recreation activities to showcase how it works. When you drop this down, you will have your main CTA. So popularity items for recreation activities is of course registering for a program. So that'll be the first thing that they see. And then you'll have all of those subcategories or child pages that you can select from. I mentioned the drill down menu of 2. Right now on our website, it goes down upwards of 5 or 6, which gets very cluttered. We've restricted it down to 2. So for example, if you click on facilities, it would then pull up all the facilities available within the city. And then if you click on one of these items, it would take you to that designated landing page. And of course, if you want to go back within the navigation, you click back and it would just take you back to the previous experience. Okay, so let's talk about how it's going to look on mobile. A big piece for us is to make sure that the desktop version and the mobile version are very seamless. So it's actually going to maintain the exact same functionality, just in a condensed version. This is going to be the only mobile example that I'm showing because the desktop, all of the visual templates themselves function exactly the same. The only thing that changes really is the menu itself. So it collapses into what we call a hamburger menu. So when you drop this down, you'll notice here it has the exact same framework and structure as our IA, and it has the exact same call to actions and the exact same drill down menu experience. So no major changes there, which is fantastic because you don't want to have two separate experiences depending on the person's device. Okay, so here's what the homepage is going to look like. So you'll notice here, again, we've got our utility navigation and the top level navigation, which we don't really need to talk about too much now. And let's focus here on the visual components. So when you land on the homepage of the website, we now have a main hero image. So as you can see, it says, welcome to the city of Beaumont. A few things that you'll notice here, we have placeholder text, and a lot of our items here, that's not actually what it's going to say. That's just to indicate what sort of information goes in there. So don't think that that's what it's going to be. So you'll notice here, like I said, the hero image, this is interchangeable depending on our templates, our seasons, what we have going on. We can change the title, the text, depending on what our communication needs are at the time. We've also removed the homepage carousel, which you'll notice on the old website. We've removed that fully. It's not best practice to have a carousel. Most people don't see past the second card anyways, and that is a poor user experience. So we've actually made all three cards front and center, very easy to find. These here is our timely content. These are our call to actions, sorry. So right now we've got our summer camp street sweeping and then our hour changes for transit. And this of course can be changed depending on the communication needs at the time. You also notice that these have article tags. These will make more sense when I go into the actual news categories and the news templates. We've also added key links or quick actions that can be updated on the website. So if for some reason we want to have something for transit, we have something for transit. If it was during the winter months, we have snow and ice control services right on the homepage, and these are interchangeable and swapped. We're also working with machine learning. So I don't like to use the word AI. Rather. We like to call it machine learning. So depending on what users are accessing at the time, we can actually automate these to be updated on a seasonal basis. So if a page is getting a lot of hits, it'll actually just auto update on the homepage, which is really cool. Then we have our events, which will also take you to the calendar items. So we want to make sure that these weren't hidden because they are somewhat hidden on our current website. So as you can see here, events will have 4 cards. These, of course, are based on chronological order. You can view all events, or you can click on an individual one that you would like to look at. Then we have our news, follows suit with the events template there. Same thing, you'll notice here that we've got categories, and we'll talk about that here in a little bit, or if you want to view all the news, you could. And then we also have a contact us. This will be directly linked to the SEO when it becomes fully operational. For the time being, this is going to take users to a contact us landing page that has all the contact details for all departments and all areas of the city. We also have a back to top button, which is very nice to have, especially on web pages that have a lot of content. If you were to tap on this, it would actually take you right up to the top of the page, which is key. And then we've got the pretty standard boilerplate footer items, but we did add in our land acknowledgement into the footer of the website, which we also have a link that goes to our land acknowledgement page. And then the pretty standard boilerplate links and stuff such as careers, news, transit apps, so on and so forth. And then we have the non-emergency, which will go to the Service Beaumont component here in the bottom as well. Okay, let's talk about the facilities template. So this has completely been redone from the ground up, and there's a couple of cool key features, that I'll walk us through here. So this here is going to be the BSRC for the example. So a key thing that we put in at the top of all facilities pages is a special announcement. Each facility obviously has something going on, or if they want to have a key piece of information indicated for any user that lands on the web page, they'll see that front and center. Then you've also got your boilerplate areas and zones for content. You can also register for programs on any of our facility pages. Featured resources is a new piece as well. So there's a lot of documents and supporting resources that are attached to facilities. So we want to make sure that those aren't hidden like they are currently right now. So those will be front and center as well. You've got key features such as hours of operation, special hours, if there's changes for the holidays, let's say, the address, phone number, contact email, and social media contact information. We've also baked in Google Maps into the website. So right now it shows it directly through Google. If you were to actually click on this location on your mobile device, let's say, it'll actually open it in Google Maps for you. So you can actually just tap, take me there, or directions, whatever that is. Then we've also got features and amenities for each of our facilities. And then here at the bottom, we've got our page builder component areas. This will make more sense when I take you through the page builder template themselves. These are called accordions, and then same thing, the back to top. So that here in a nutshell is what all of our facility templates are going to look like. One thing to note is that every facility will look the same. Obviously, the information will be a little bit changed, but that provides consistency across the board for every user that lands on the website. So they know exactly what they're looking for. If they want to find amenities at the BSRC versus the Ken Nickel, it'll be in the same place. They know where to go. All right, let's talk about programs. We took the template or the items that we really liked from the facilities template and we baked it into our programs template. So same thing for any programs or events that we have across the city, we'll utilize templates such as this, where same thing, you'll have special announcements that directly relate to that program. You'll have your template text and then your optional CTA or call to action, featured resources, the address, contact details for that program specifically or for that event, and then of course the page builder components. All right, since I've mentioned page builder components twice, you guys don't necessarily know what that is. Let's go through that real quick. Every single page that we have on the website is built on what we call page builders. And this is a blank open template that the communications team or other users from administration can use to build specific information into a page. So there's a couple of things that we identified. We want to make sure that, of course, we had a column and header, and that we had our body text, imagery, so on and so forth. But we've also broken it down into columns. So if you had two separate pieces of information that tied into the same resource, you could have that listed as well. You could also have images and columns split, which we've never been able to do before. So there's a lot of layout opportunities here for the city to really make a web page look beautiful and not just being the same standard layout to where it falls off the page or it doesn't look as consistent. So we've been able to give a little bit more of an option. We've also built accordions. So essentially what this is you have your main content and it can be hidden or collapsed. And if you want it to be expanded, you tap on it, it'll expand it. There's a lot of information on our website. So I'll use snow and ice control as an example, a lot of resources. And when they're all put into one single piece of information, the page gets really, really long. So we've decided to try to condense that as much as we can. So we built accordions. We also have callouts, so special announcements for said pieces of information. And we've got our tables. If the administration, would like to build tables into the web page, we can do that now as well. And then featured resources. We've actually built an entire library, and I'll show you the resource archive here in a little bit, but we've built featured resources into every single page if they need it. So for example, if this is for snow and ice control, and we want to reference the snow clearing bylaw or residential responsibilities documents, instead of having them linked to a different page or having users have to go find that information, we can actually have it linked directly inline on the web content, which is a huge feature to have. All right, so since I was talking about some bylaws, let's talk about bylaws and policies. We've actually built an entire library for all of these resources on the website. Now, right now we do have a bylaws page, but it's not searchable. They're just linked to individual bylaws or policies. This here is a library. It's the best sense of the term. If you're looking for something very specific, it's now searchable. If you're looking for something that's tagged and you want to filter by it, you can now filter it and it will auto update right in the page for you, which is fantastic. And of course, once you do a search or once you apply a filter, it'll then update based on the category, the tag, or the search, and it'll update it right here on the page. So you can scroll through until your heart's content to find the information that you require. If you would like to show more results on the page, we've also added that into it as well. So this will be 10, 25, 50, 75, and 100 results. So depending on the user, they can obviously pick which ones they would like to see. We also built a resource archive that follows suit with the bylaws and policies page. So you'll start to see a little bit of a theme here when it comes to consistency. If someone lands on the bylaws page and that's what they're used to doing for searching for specific documents, they can do that now for resources. Resources covers everything that's not a bylaw or a policy. So it'd be PDFs, reports, budgets, what have you. And it follows the exact same features and functionality. So you can search for it or you can filter it down. And then same thing down here at the bottom, you can obviously display how many results you would like per page. All right, so let's talk about news. Right now on our website, we have these things called news flashes, and a lot of different types of information goes into those templates, public notices and news being the big ones. We've actually separated news flashes and public notices. Essentially, news flashes are items that provide information to the community and updates from the city. Public notices are things that directly impact our community, so residents or businesses. So we've split that. So news flashes are always going to be displayed in chronological order. However, you can obviously sort it by date, by category, or by department. Okay, so that's obviously department within the city. Department's probably going to get changed or optimized a little bit here. So just keep in mind some of these things are subject to change, but for the most part, this is what it's going to look like and how it's going to function. And obviously, if you were to click on one of these, it would open in a new page, a new tab, sorry. Just one thing to note, this pink box here is a placeholder. That's where images will go if there is an image that's uploaded. So don't think that we just decide to add in a pink box just for fun. That's where images would be shown. Okay, so if you were to click on one of those news flashes, it would take you to the news post. So right here, you'll notice it just says WYSIWYG. That's a fancy web development term for what you see is what you get. It's a glorified document editor, essentially is what we like to call it. But all of the information would be listed right here in the news flash. You'd have your title, you'd have all your text, supporting text, and then any links that you would like. And it utilizes some of those page builder components that I showed earlier. A user can also share any of these news flashes directly to social media, or if it's an event, they can actually add it to their calendar. And I'll talk about this here in a little bit. Public notices. Okay, so right now with our news flashes on the current website, there was one major gap that we noticed, and is that public notices get hidden unless you are on the news flash page. And that's not necessarily the best use of that information, because if it's something that's very important, such as a water ban, we want to make sure that's front and center. So in our public notices, we've actually built two pieces of functionality that will be pinned at the top of every page, no matter where you come into the website. So you'll notice one in blue and one in red. Blue is for non-emergency public notices. Red is for emergency public notices. So again, if it was a water ban, it would be in red. If it was a construction notice or a street closure, it might be in blue. Right? So it really depends on what that initiative calls for. And again, this will be pinned at the top of every page whenever it's activated. Keep in mind, though, we can only have one or the other. We can't have both at the same time. Okay, so it's really up to communications to facilitate that with the departments based on the initiative. Now, when you get to the public notices page, there's no filter, and we did that on purpose because public notices are really meant to be one and done. If people are looking for that information, obviously they can go back and find it, but this will always be based on chronological order. We don't want to provide filtering options because we want the ones that are active always being up at the top. And if we were to provide filtering and people would filter it out, then it wouldn't be there. We are looking at ways that we can optimize that in the future, though, by adding a filter, so keep in mind that is coming. So same thing, whatever public notice you would like to take a look at, if you were to click on it, it would take you right to the public notice page, and it follows suit with the news flash. So again, consistency, showing that information and where it comes from. You've got your title, your body language, and then of course your text and links, and you've got your start date and your end date. If no end date is indicated, it'll just say ongoing. All right, the last two templates, and then I'll open the floor for some questions. We've completely redone our calendar and our events sections of the website. And as you can see here, it's a much needed visual upgrade, but there's a couple of cool key features here that we've included into the build of the website. The first one is searching for events, specific events. So in the back end, we can obviously tag events, we upload the information, and users are now able to search for it. It's now going to display in a calendar format. So right here, we've got April of 2024. So any events that are happening within that month, they'll be indicated here. And if you click on it, it'll expand it, and then you can open it in a new page if you choose to do so. There's also two views for events and the calendar. You can view it in a calendar view, or you can view it in a list view. And I'll show you the list view here in a second. And you would filter that out by clicking this button here, for example. The other thing that we decided to include, and this is a feature that we noticed during our tree testing, is we didn't really have a good way for users to subscribe to our calendars or our events that are happening here in the city. So we've built that in, but it's not just within web. We've actually done it to be compatible with iPhone, so it would be iCalendar. We've done it to be compatible with Google Calendar as well as Outlook, so Microsoft. So we took the three main calendar types that users are utilizing on their devices, and you can actually subscribe and add it directly to your phone. The cool thing about this is that if we were to add an event on April 26th, it'll actually send a push notification directly to those users who've subscribed to that calendar month. This here is what the list view looks like. So if you were to swap from calendar view to list view, again, it would be based off of chronological order within the month. And then we've got a bunch of filters here. These are, of course, going to change, but we want to show how robust our filter feature could be. So you'll notice things like country. I don't think we need to have something like that. City, same thing, probably don't need it, but we can go as, we can drill those filters down how deep we want them to be. And then if you were to click on one of these, it would actually open into the event post type. So you'll notice it's got some key information, event details, so the date, the time, the location. It'll also be embedded with Google Maps. And then you've got your WYSIWYG components here, so body text of said event as well as text links. And then same thing, if you wanted to actually subscribe to this specific event and not be subscribed to the entire calendar as a whole, you can do that as well by clicking Add to Calendar. You can choose your calendar type of choice, again, iCalendar, Google, or Outlook. All right, okay. That's all of it. So what I'm going to do here is I can stop sharing and we don't need it. Yeah, awesome, cool. Oh, right here, look at that. Man, see, I'm supposed to build a website, but I can't even function. The ongoing joke in the office. All right, okay, well, that's the presentation there, so I'll love to open the floor for any questions.
Perfect. Thank you, Mr. Hart and Mr. Reichert, for all that. We are obviously all anxiously awaiting the website, and It's been a long time coming, but it looks like there's a lot of thoughtful design elements that have gone into it. So really appreciative of that. I will turn to my colleagues if they have any questions. We will begin with Councillor Tellenboss.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Chris and Josh. Appreciate the presentation. Obviously, a lot of work goes into that. A lot of work that people don't realize as well. It's all the background work. So yeah, again, really appreciate that. Just have a quick question. There's obviously a lot of information and information that you shared with us. Is there any intention to generate somewhat of a tutorial similar to what you just ran through with us so that general public can reference that and get a good understanding of the website and how to navigate it appropriately?
You want to talk to the service Beaumont stuff first?
Thanks for the question, Councillor. In regards to Project Dashboard and the Service Beaumont tool, there'll be instructions on the tool itself, kind of how to step through the different functionality, those kind of details, and how to step through the different tools you can use and those kind of things within the application.
All right, great question. So through Madam Chair to Councillor Tellenboss. When it comes to a website, it's a little bit difficult to provide a full tutorial like what we just showed here to council. All of the decisions that we made when it comes to the design, the layout, and the features and functions for the website is directly pulled from the feedback that we've received from residents in the community thus far. However, we will have options on the website to provide feedback. We don't have any plans at this time to do mass tutorials. It's very labor intensive and actually doesn't necessarily fill a void that you might be thinking that there is. Users are very smart when it comes to this world. So again, a lot of our research and development has been based off of that feedback already. Now, with that being said, though, anything that is provided from the feedback forms that we'll have launched on the website. So as of right now, we actually don't have it shown, but there will be a little tab that pops out and you can provide feedback on any bugs, information. Oh, I don't know where this page is. I would like to find it. That will be ongoing, and we'll actually be taking a look at that information. We call it behavioral analysis when it comes to the web world. And any of those changes, if we notice an influx of individuals who have the same thought, then we make those changes, right? So that's our plan moving forward. But no, at this time, we don't have any plans to actually do a video tutorial or anything like that at this time.
Perfect. Thank you. And I just echo the comments made that we're all excited for this website. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. So we have Councillor Van Nieuwkerk, then Councillor Barnhart.
Yeah, thank you for all the information, and just fresh off of a Recreation and Parks Culture Board meeting here a couple of weeks ago, and one of the asks and things that permeated to the top was the calendar. So I think people are going to really be excited for that part. And maybe could you just reiterate the purpose of the calendar and the access and how it's envisioned the groups will populate? I know you went through that, but maybe just spend a little bit more time on that for folks. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Through Madam Chair, through to Councillor Van Nieuwkerk. When we started this project, even back when we were doing our content audit, we did what we call discovery sessions with every single department and stakeholder within the organization, as well as actually public feedback. And the events in the calendar piece was a massive item that we were taking a look at. When it comes to adding in the information, we want to make sure that it's as seamless and easy as possible. So we do have a fully robust, brand new CMS, so it's our content management system, that certain departments will get training on to make sure that they can manage their events and have the information updated. When it comes to the calendar itself, right now events are tagged on specific pages, and they're not easy to find because if you don't know what page they're sitting on, you're not able to find that event that's attached to that page. So we separated the two. Now, just because the calendars are separated from that web page content doesn't mean that we can't link them on those other pages. That calendar widget can actually be injected into specific pages as well. So if an end user ends up on a park facilities page, for example, so let's talk about BSRC as an example, we can actually have all of the events in the calendar directly on the BSRC page, which will make it a lot easier for people as well. That's our plan.
Yeah, and what will be the ability to get events in the community onto that calendar? What does that look like?
Could you be a little bit more specific when you talk about events? Are you talking about events that are outside of the city's purview?
Yeah, maybe a large tournament is coming to town, or maybe there is a significant event in the community that's popped up that occurs that, you know, isn't under the city's purview. Is there going to be an opportunity to populate some of those milestone events and events that are important to local CVOs on that calendar?
Yeah, so as of right now, the different departments, so we'll use rec as the example, they work with those stakeholders that are outside of the city. So any of those events, when they end up on our website currently right now, they actually work directly with parks and facilities or rec, and they update those onto the individual landing pages. Again, it's very difficult to know where those go because we don't necessarily have a section for community events. Now we have a calendar that can house all events. So those different stakeholders and groups will work directly with my colleagues and counterparts within those areas to make sure it gets put onto the website.
Yeah, so the opportunity is going to be there
Absolutely.
and then it'll pop up, fillable, viewable and such. So
Yes.
I think that's going to be a big step. So thank you.
Mr. Berezzowski may have something to add here.
Thank you, Chair. To supplement to that, on that too, to Committee Member Van Newkirk. So there is currently a process, but because of course the calendar is hard to find, it isn't very well known and we haven't been promoting it much. But there will be an opportunity, and we'll work with the events team too, so that they make that aware when people are registering for events, that they have that opportunity to promote their event through the calendar. And we're also going to promote that a little more broadly through our other channels and social media and stuff too. So that is absolutely one of the reasons why we created this feature. And it is something that we're looking to enhance the access to now that we'll have a tool that functions a lot better.
That's good. Yeah, no, thank you for that. Again, just a recent example is we had a user group come and present to the Rex Park Culture Committee, and then they wondered what else might be happening at the Ball Diamonds at the same time as this event, right? So this is going to really help that out. Whereas right now administration had to take that back, canvas, ask people, figure it out, get back to that person. So, this will just be an opportunity as it's populated to smooth that out a lot. So appreciate it.
Thank you. Yeah, I think just amalgamating all that and being able to see it all in one spot will be key. I just have a quick question on the calendar searches as well, since we're kind of on that topic. If someone searches something, because you have the search function on there, something more generic like kids events, will it pull stuff up like that or yeah?
Yeah, no, fantastic question, Madam Chair. I didn't bring any examples at the back end of the CMS because that really gets into the nitty gritty about how the website functions behind the curtain. Everything that's searchable on the website, we've built in a lot of search engine optimization tools, and I actually showed Mr. Berezzowski them last week, and I like to think that he thinks they're pretty cool, so gives me the, I can't tell you something. Yeah, he's laughing, so I'll say yes. Yeah, so we take a look at all of our web analytics and our data for what users are trying to find, and we actually build in what's called metadata tags, so both the meta descriptions and the titles for the SEO. Even if an event doesn't have that specific search term, we've baked it in, and the IA tool that we've actually implemented will tell you if it's bad, okay, or great. So we'll actually be able to actively and proactively make sure that all of our search queries for everything across the board, events included, will indicate exactly what it is. So even if someone searched kid events, if it's tagged in the back end with our metadata, 100% is going to show up.
That's fantastic. I think that'll take away a lot of the questions and different headaches and stuff that people currently have with finding out what's going on in the city and everything like that. So that's great to hear. I look forward to seeing that. We have questions from Councillor Barnhart.
Thank you very much, Chair. Thank you, Joshua. Thank you, Chris. Well done to get that much information out there. You talk fast, but the good news is I think we listen fast.
I only had 10 minutes, so
you made it.
I don't even, I think I went.
You did well. I'm amazed at myself that I could keep up, but I think I did pretty good. One comment or question, and I'm not, I think this is a sensitive area to some. Councillor Van Newkirk, I was at a committee meeting this week, but it was the Arts Advisory Committee. And I know one of the things that they look for is the inclusion of arts in a way that isn't under recreation. And so it is on this website under recreation. So I'm wondering, and I know these things can take more time than I can even imagine, if there's a way to either include recreation and arts in the heading or somewhere else so that arts isn't a subset under recreation, because I know that irks people because it is a form of recreation, but it's more on the leisure side, not the sports side, and there's sensitivity there. So that's just one comment and feedback. I don't know if you've already tested that or if you have a comment on that?
Yeah, through Madam Chair, through to Councillor Barnhart. Everything on our website is fully responsive, and not in the sense of, I talk about mobile responsiveness, but we can make changes and updates on the fly, which is fantastic. All of those headers actually for our parent navigation, those are actually all changing because of items such as that. So we're actually working with our content strategist right now, as well as my agency partner, to figure out what the best move is to make sure that things are inclusive. We've done a lot of tree testing, as you can imagine, so we have a lot of data and information. So those things are going to be updated, and that's fantastic feedback. So we'll take that and we'll make sure that that's included. But I believe arts was one of the items, because we actually have a dedicated arts page now, and a boards and committees page as well currently.
I did see it kind of on the underneath recreation. So I'll just, if you fix that already.
Yeah.
And I'll just add my comments as well to the idea of shared. It reminds me of smaller time and place when we had one board where you could go and see all that was going on in the community. Since everyone doesn't read the same channels or get the same information, I think it's really important that we try to combine that as much as possible. So I echo what my colleagues have said, and I really look forward to the events calendar being something that the community voluntary organizations can use.
Yeah, well, yeah, the search alone, just to add to that, right now on our current website, when you search something, it tries to crawl every single page. And so news flashes, for example, get categorized as pages, and there's like 3,200 of them. So it's not a good experience, and people can't find what it is that they're looking for. We've split it now. So as you notice in events, that's searchable. Resources are searchable. Bylaws and policies, those are all separated now.
Yeah.
Mr.
I think you've heard the feedback, and I do.
100% we have.
Mr. Berezowski, may have some comments to add.
Sure, I just wanted to supplement on the information architecture too. Thank you to the chair, to Councillor Barnhart. I do want to caution that the information architecture has been created based on what our residents are looking for. So I don't want to get into trying to edit that too much based on what we think people should be looking for. It is very much based on the user feedback, and will continue to be based on user feedback.
Thank you, Mr. Berezowski, and thank you very much. I don't see any other questions, so I believe that's it. And we look forward to the launch date.
So thank you very much.
Thank you. We'll move on to 5.3, protective services level of service. I believe Mr. Melvin is presenting virtually.
Yes, Madam Chair, I'll be presenting virtually this evening.
Perfect. Thank you. You may begin. We can't see you.
Oh, how about now?
No, we can see you. You're just very dark.
Good evening, Council. Obviously, I'll be presenting this evening the level of service draft policies that came out of our TSI review. These policies are presented to Council this evening to gain general input from the committee. As you're aware, TSI was contracted to provide a level of service review on our municipal enforcement and fire services level of service within the community. They were tasked with identifying opportunities where we can improve our level of service and achieve expectations. Based on the consultant's expertise, we did draft 2 council policies that are outlined in the attachments of this document. We will start with just a general overview of the fire service policy. The fire service policy is set up as per a standard council policy layout with a purpose, policy statement, definitions, and scope. It provides what the core services are for the fire service, what the hours of service will be for full-time staff, and also what the paid on-call firefighting after-hours service and weekend response will be. It'll also dictate that the Beaumont service also needs to conduct ongoing fire risk assessments to determine and identify as any new risks come to the city, growth, large infrastructure, or other things that may impact the community and its residents. Also within the Fire Services Council policy is the equipment replacement, dictates what the applicable standards are, how often the equipment is life cycled out. Also provides some direction on personal protective equipment for the staff, and also any capital equipment that needs to be purchased and maintained, and what standard it's to meet. It also dictates the training that is required and who delivers that training based on the level of service. Now, all these, when you talk about training, equipment, staffing, they all make up the level of service. If any one of these change or impacts either greatly, it'll impact the level of service, and the level of service will need to be adjusted based on that. The next document is the municipal enforcement level of service policy. Once again, standard policy layout with purpose, policy statement, definitions, and scope. It also provides the core services of the community peace officers, what their role is, how many hours of service per week on a rotating shift schedule they provide, what's the population to staffing ratio, what the community peace officers, how they triage their calls. It also provides some core service for bylaw officers. This is typically our summer weed inspector and what that rotating schedule will be. It lays out what the training is required. A lot of stuff is governed by the GOA to get a peace officer appointment within the city of Beaumont. There is also some additional training based on the level of service that we provide to the community. It also, again, provides the equipment when the municipal enforcement equipment is to be life cycled out, along with personal protective equipment for the staff. As with the fire services level of service policy, if equipment, training, or staffing get impacted, it will affect the level of service. And it's my role and my staff is to constantly do those risk assessments in the community and provide that information back up through administration and into your hands for further discussion. So those are the two documents that I had this evening, and I am open to any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Chief. As Chief Melvin stated, these align with our protective services review that we already received. So much of this is fairly straightforward information we've seen. However, I will look to my colleagues for questions. So we have Councillor Natellenbos.
Thank you for the report here and the policies. I just had a quick question, more so in regards to the CPOs, and just curious, more so on the definition side, bylaw versus community peace officer versus enforcement officer, and I guess in a different language, trying to translate that to either a CPO1 or a CPO2, and how that ties into our ratios. So for example, are we going to have more CPO1s? Is everyone considered a CPO1? Are we going CPO2s as well within that ratio? So just looking for a little bit of clarity on the definitions and then the type of officers that we have built into those ratios.
Through Madam Chair to Councillor Natellenbos. The ratio for the CPOs, so CPO level 1 is community peace officer level 1. They obviously can enforce moving violations. CPO level 2 was kind of phased out several years ago. Right now, I believe the only CPO 2 levels are the ATE operators within the province. We don't have any CPO level 2s anymore within the city of Beaumont. All we have is CPO level 1s, and we have our summer bylaw officers. So CPO level 2 does not affect or include in this policy moving forward. The staffing to ratio for the CPOs is based on a CPO level 1, so they can enforce every piece of the municipal enforcement program, including weed inspecting outside of the summer hours that the summer weed inspector provides us.
Perfect. Thank you. So then I guess just a little more clarity between the difference between the definitions here, bylaw officer versus CPO versus enforcement officer. How come we're using so many titles if we're working with just CPO ones?
Through the Madam Chair again to Councillor Lentellenboss. For the flow of the document and based on legal review, enforcement officer within the document will include both CPO level ones and bylaw officers, just for context. But primarily our full-time equivalent staff are all CPO level ones. Hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, thank you. And one final question, just in terms of commercial vehicle inspections, off of that ratio, how many of the officers would be trained on the commercial vehicle side? Only reason I ask is obviously as a growing city, it becomes a big concern with the additional commercial vehicles coming in and out of town.
Through Madam Chair to Councillor Lentellenboss, right now our program does not include commercial vehicle inspections. We do weights and dimensions right now. Based on our staffing level. It's not a program that has been identified as a level of service that we're currently providing within our manpower. But it is something as the community will continue to grow and will align with our dangerous goods route through the city, that commercial vehicle inspections will be a level of service that we'll provide in the future. But presently with the staffing at our current workload, outside of weights and the dimensions to protect our road infrastructure is what we're currently doing.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I appreciate the responses.
Thank you. And we have Councillor Barnhart.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thanks, Chief, for the update here. Lots has gone into this, lots of thought and many years trying to get to the place where we have the coverage that we're looking at now. I'm just looking at 5.1.2 in the fire section. So the fire services. And I'm just curious about where it says, unless otherwise authorized by the CAO or the Director of Protective Services in their sole discretion. And I'm not worried that you're going to use your discretion appropriately, but who knows in the future who will be there and what the councils of the future will be looking at. So I'm just wondering whether there's any place in here that speaks to within budget parameters or something to that effect that puts I mean, it says City Council responsible in number 6 for approving this policy and amendments, but it doesn't reference the fact that 5.1.2 is really dependent on, do we have the money to provide that service? So I'm just curious about what the thinking is behind that, if you wouldn't mind explaining that a bit.
Through Madam Chair to Councillor Bernhardt. The reasoning behind that one, as you're aware that what came out of the review was that myself and my deputy chief were a part of the first response crew that was out, a part of the 4-member crew that were to provide. That clause is put in there so that it enables us in the future to fill in on those roles as our discretion. Somebody calls in sick, so that we don't go less than the 4-person during that time period during the city. In no way is it intent to, at the discretion, that we increase our staffing through budget approval. That's a normal process that we do here, providing that information as part of the budget packages. But this clause in there was just put in there so that if somebody were to call in sick, one of us could fill in.
I see. So I was looking at it from a budget standpoint, but you're looking at it from an HR perspective as to the human resources end of that. Is there anywhere in here that you're saying the budget is the process by which it's determined how many resources we would have. I'm just wondering why that isn't referenced in the policy.
Through Madam Chair to Councillor Barnhart, the policy sets direction on what the level of service is to the community. So with that policy, the direction then comes down through administration to myself to ensure that we're providing that level of service to the community. As in case currently right now, 4 members, 5 days a week, 8:30 to 4:30 is our current hours. Myself and my deputy chief make up the 2 of the 4 responders that provide that level of service. And obviously, based on the TSI report, it was suggested that this would come out of that. There's also a piece in there where the CAO could redirect us back in on shift depending on something that would happen in the community. So there's certain clauses in there that administration can adapt and change without having to come back through council to get a level of service document changed. It is by no means meant to hide anything from council or different staffing. Any type of FTE requests to increase level of service comes through the budget process through administration into council every year.
Yeah, I appreciate that, and I didn't think you were hiding anything. I'm just wondering for future in terms of council's decision making. This policy establishes a minimum of 4, and if council wanted anything different, they would have to change this policy. Thank you.
That's it. Thank you very much. I see no other questions, so you are good to go. And we will move on to the next. Thank you, Chief Melvin.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you. We'll move on to number 6, councillor inquiries. I'm not aware of any. However, are there any councillor inquiries? None? Okay, moving on. We're moving on to our closed session, which is 7.1 RCMP 2024 update. So I will look for a motion to move into closed session. Would anyone like to move? Councillor Penrod.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor McCook. I move that council move into closed session at 5:56 pursuant to the Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act, sections 21 and 24.
Thank you. And I will look to any discussion. No, I will start the vote. That passes unanimously, and we will now move into closed session. Thank you. Thank you. All right, we are back from closed session, and I will go to the mayor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to congratulate you on your term as Deputy Mayor. Your biggest obligation, of course, is doing this committee of the whole meeting. You did a very good job of maintaining the decorum and keeping things moving right along very nicely. So on behalf of administration and council, thank you for your term. I'm looking forward to our next councillor coming on board next month for the next committee of the whole meeting, but you did a great job. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mayor. Appreciate that, and excited to pass it on to Councillor Natalan Boss. But other than that, we are moving to adjourn the meeting, and I'm sure everyone has moved on to the Oilers game anyways. So good luck, Oilers. Thank you very much.